Well, good evening, little masters, and welcome to episode 190 of the Prancing Pony podcast, where we're about to go running in sunlight.
What's the hurry anyway, Ugluk? Where are you trying to get to? Come on. Folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the man of the West, who would prefer to sit on the grass and wait for the Rohirrim to join the picnic. Alan Sisto.
Well, it's because I'm fairly sure they will see I'm not an orc. That and I like picnics.
Who doesn't like picnics?
Don't let the ranger get in the picnic basket.
Except the ranger is Aragorn.
That's right. Don't let that Aragorn get to the picnic basket, boo-boo. Today, Boo-boo will not be joining us, neither will Yogi.
No.
But we are going to be talking about the second part of the Urak-Hai, the third chapter in Book 3 of The Lord of the Rings. This is when Pippin gets clever and the Rohirrim start catching up.
Indeed it is. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium, a few pages at a time.
We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And we have a lot of fun along the way. So we're really glad you've joined us.
And we hope you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, it's time for fan favorite Philology Fair.
All right. Well, I wanted to spend this segment today taking a look at an expression that's used a few times in this chapter. Ugluk seems to be especially fond of it, so you know it's something you want to say to your grandmother. The expression is leg it. And if you were to ask me, really, Sean, that's what you want to do a philology fair on? Leg it?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'd understand your skepticism on that. I mean, it does seem like a pretty straightforward phrase. And it is a pretty straightforward phrase, but that doesn't mean that its usage is not pretty interesting and pretty telling, I think. So, the phrase leg it is used 3 times by Ugluk in this chapter. And guess how many times it's used otherwise in Tolkien's Legendarium?
9 times.
Close. Replace the I with an O, and you'll have none times.
None
That's
times.
the answer.
None times. It goes to none.
None more
None
times.
more. None more times. Yeah.
Thank you, Nigel Tufnell. Yeah, it's never used again in Tolkien's Legendarium, at least that I can find, and I have ebooks.
Yes, you do.
Now, maybe that's not too strange, you're thinking. I mean, it's a pretty slangy-sounding term.
True.
Obviously, it means to move quickly, but because it's slang, it sounds like the kind of thing you would expect to hear coming from orcs.
Right.
You know, we wouldn't expect to hear Celeborn telling the Fellowship to leg it once they get down the Anduin.
No. Thou must leg it.
Thou shalt leg it, Aragorn. And you wouldn't expect to hear Éomer telling the 3 hunters to leg it back to Edoras after you find out what happened to your friends.
That's right.
You find the bodies and leg it back.
That's right.
And we certainly would be shocked to hear Ulmo telling Tuor to leg it to Gondolin double quick.
Actually, I would love that. But yeah, you're right. I think we would be a little surprised. It doesn't sound quite...
to Gondolin double quick.
Oh, man. I had forgotten all about that Ulmo bubble voice. That's brilliant stuff, Sean. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway.
I know it's not deep like it's supposed to be, but it's still the way I want to imagine.
I could do something with effects somewhere, I'm sure. Anyway.
Leg it to Gondolin
Double quick. But somehow with bubbles, which is hard. All right. So here's the thing.
Right.
Sean's right. The phrase leg it appears nowhere else in the Legendarium. Not in The Hobbit with its informal narrative style, not even in Goblin or Troll dialogue in that book. And frankly, we all know that Troll's language isn't drawing room fashion at all.
How did I know you were going to drop that in there?
I love it. I really do. That's one
Any
of my
chance
favorite
you
little
get.
turns of phrase. It's just...
I know it is. It's great.
Not even in Pippin and Merry's banter at Crickhollow in The Lord of the Rings. And not even later on when we get up close and personal with the Orcs when Frodo and Sam are in Mordor.
That's true. Yeah.
Something is definitely going on here. I kind of get the feeling Tolkien's trying to distinguish the speech pattern of Ugluk as one of the Isengard orcs from all the other orcs as well as all the other peoples in Middle-earth. So why? Well, let's see if we can find out.
Yeah. Or let's see if we can at least find a plausible speculation.
Well, that's what 90% of our show is just plausible speculation, Sean.
Welcome back to the Prancing Pony podcast, home of plausible speculation on Tolkien's Legendarium. All right. Well, let's start by looking at the etymology. Now, I have to admit, the etymology is neither terribly complicated nor terribly interesting.
It is. It's what it says on the tin, folks.
Welcome back to the Prancing Pony Podcast. Neither terribly complicated nor terribly interesting. All right, reeling it in. Okay.
All right.
So the verb legate is listed in the Oxford English Dictionary as primarily a British colloquialism, meaning, of course, to travel on foot, especially quickly.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's just a verb formed off of the noun leg, which is a Germanic word. Interestingly, leg is not a native Old English word. The Old English word for the lower limbs of the body was schenka, which is the origin of our modern word shank, as in, I'll have you, Longshanks.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, sometime around 1300, as Middle English was borrowing lots of vocabulary from the Scandinavian settlers in the north of Britain, the Old English term began to be replaced by an Old Norse loanword, legr, which gave rise to our modern word leg. Now, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, again, the noun leg first shows up in Lagerman's Brut. But aside from the fact that gives me an excuse to say Lagerman on the show again,
of course,
really nothing I have to report on that. It's just a word I like to say.
Yes.
But then at some point in the late 1500s, the word it was first attached to turn the noun leg into the verb legate.
That is interesting. But around 1920, and first, apparently thanks OED, in the works of P.G. Wodehouse, legate started to take on an even more specific connotation in British colloquial speech to mean flee or run away. So,
yes.
Legate, you fools!
Yet another place you would not expect to find legate in Lord of the Rings.
But would that have been brilliant, right? So, now if you look at the OED and other dictionaries, you find a lot of examples of the phrase in sentences like, I didn't wait for Charlie, I just legged it. Or, oh, we saw some kids legging it, clutching a TV and a hi-fi. After snatching my handbag, you just legged it. I mean, I had to add some character there, right?
Kudos to my co-host for the Dickensian Cockney criminal accent. That's brilliant.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Because it doesn't really work well in Southern California or Central Texas.
It doesn't even work in an upscale. Like I can't hear Christopher Tolkien. I didn't wait. Well, I can't even do Christopher Tolkien, but I can't even imagine a sort of proper English accent. I didn't wait for Charlie. I just legged it. No, it doesn't fly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be like that. I'm thinking of that guy from Firefly with the bowler hat.
Oh, Badger.
Badger, that's his name.
Mark Shepard is Badger.
Oh, he's brilliant in that role.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I'm totally thinking of him when I hear that.
Yeah. No, and it's perfect because, while, not all the examples you can find of the phrase online are associated with criminals, still, the term does kind of seem to have that connotation, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Maybe not exclusively, but frequently.
Right.
It's all about escaping the scene of one's misdeeds, making a quick getaway after doing something criminal or illegal.
Or just embarrassing, but I'll leave that alone. And notice that
I've legged it out of a few parties before. Let me tell you that.
With the lampshade or without would be my question.
Without.
Good. All right.
Yes. Sometimes without my shoes.
I was wondering if there was anything else you were without, but yeah. All right.
I'll leave it at
that. Now, notice that that's pretty much the sense in all the situations where Ugluk uses the term legate. In the last episode, we saw, the cursed horse breeders will hear of us by morning. Now we'll have to leg it double quick. Or in this episode, we'll see him say to Pippin, I shan't forget. Payment is only put off. Leg it! Now, this is after Pippin has apparently attempted to escape, though, of course, we'll see that he actually had another purpose in mind.
Right.
And later, the other swine are legging it to the forest. You'd better follow. This is, of course, while he's threatening Grishnak.
Yeah, and all of those usages do have similar connotations. It's all like, basically, get out of here before you get what's coming to you.
Yeah.
It's leg it before the horse breeders catch us in their country, or leg it before Ugluk gives you a knuckle sandwich to Pippin or to Grishnak.
Did you seriously just use knuckle sandwich in a complete sentence?
I totally did, yeah.
Thanks,
get out of it, leg it before I give you a knuckle sandwich.
I'll give you 5 reasons. 5 reasons to get going.
That's right.
All right.
But why doesn't Tolkien have any other orc anywhere else in his writing use the term legate?
Yeah, that's the thing, huh?
I have to think that maybe this connotation with criminals is associated here. Maybe he wants to portray Ugluk and the Isengarders more as like criminals and miscreants more than faceless monsters. In some way, having them use something that just sounds like London street slang, it kind of humanizes them, and thus it makes their deeds all the more terrifying.
It does. You're right. It makes them less creature and more person.
Yeah. And it could be that he really did this on purpose for the Urak-Hai specifically because of their closer relationship with men, specifically evil men. So, I mean, again, we can't prove it.
Well,
there's nothing in his writing. There's nothing in History of Middle-earth or anything that hints at this, but it is an interesting speculation.
I would agree. Very interesting speculation, and a plausible speculation, which the Prancing Pony podcast is home to.
That's what we're here for.
That is indeed what we're here for. So, folks, now it's time to catch up with Merry and Pippin just as Pippin starts to get clever, for a change. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, Gandalf, come on. We haven't had anybody to abuse Pippin for so many episodes.
I know, which is probably why he's gaining his self-confidence back and doing some amazing things.
Probably so. If Gandalf wasn't always cutting him down, maybe he'd be capable of great things, as we will see.
As we will. So I'm going to go ahead and start where we left off last time.
All right.
The orc band began to descend a narrow ravine, leading down into the misty plain below. Merry and Pippin, separated by a dozen orcs or more, climbed down with them. At the bottom, they stepped onto grass, and the hearts of the hobbits rose.
"Now, straight on," shouted Ugluk. "West and a little north. Follow Lugdush."
Which I'm thinking, if I'm Merry or Pippin, which one of you is
Which one's Lugdush? Anyway. Like he's got it on the back of his jersey.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. They're all wearing jerseys with teenage. And, of course, they're different colors because you got the Northerners, you got the Moria Orcs, and you got the Isengarders.
Yeah.
"But what are we going to do at sunrise?" said some of the Northerners.
"Go on running," said Ugluk. "What do you think? Sit on the grass and wait for the Whiteskins to join the picnic?"
"But we can't run in the sunlight."
"You'll run with me behind you," said Ugluk. "Run, or you'll never see your beloved holes again. By the White Hand, what's the use of sending out mountain maggots on a trip only half-trained? Run, curse you! Run while night lasts."
Then the whole company began to run with the long, loping strides of orcs. They kept no order, thrusting, jostling, and cursing. Yet their speed was very great. Each hobbit had a guard of 3. Pippin was far back in the line. He wondered how long he would be able to go on at this pace. He had had no food since the morning. One of his guards had a whip. But at present, the orc liquor was still hot in him. His wits, too, were wide awake. Every now and again, there came into his mind, unbidden, a vision of the keen face of Strider bending over a dark trail and running behind. But what could even a ranger see except a confused trail of orc feet? His own little prince and Merry's were overwhelmed by the trampling of the iron-shod shoes before them and behind them and about them. And we'll stop there for now.
All right.
Because there's plenty to talk about, I assure you.
Oh, yes. Yes, they are. So we start with Merry and Pippin. They're down on the plain, and Merry and Pippin are separated, right? A dozen orcs or more between them.
Quite a distance, yeah.
But their hearts rise when they're on the grass, right?
I love that. That is a total blink and you miss it moment, but this is their element, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like feeling grass, feeling something alive beneath your feet instead of this rocky terrain.
A little bit of home, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you certainly, when you imagine the Shire, you imagine a very green grassland,
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, look, they're bare feet, so.
Oh, it's just physically much more comfortable than what they've been running on, yeah.
It's probably softer, it's cooler, it's probably, it's, again, if they've been on rocky terrain, I know hobbit feet are tough, but I mean, they could be getting cuts and scrapes and all kinds of things.
Yeah, and it gives them both hope, even though they're apart. I really like that. I mean, I think there's a reason why we're told that they're separated by a dozen orcs or more, and then almost immediately after that their hearts still rise.
Yeah.
It's not even their proximity to each other, just the fact that they're in touch with nature again. We know that that's so important to hobbits.
Yeah. And I have to say, Tolkien does something really masterful with the language here, because he's describing Merry and Pippin separated by a dozen orcs, but he puts their names together in the subject of the sentence.
Right.
And then he talks about them as a unit when he says the hobbits rose. So even though the sentence is describing their separation, the experience is shared.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. It's brilliant.
I agree. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
But of course, the cool feel of the grass on their feet doesn't really make them feel good for long, because then there's Ugluk shouting orders again.
Right, exactly. Oh, man.
Follow Lugdush number 6.
That guy there. The ugly one.
Yeah, right, yeah. Thanks a lot. But as if to remind us that, look, these are different types of orcs.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Northerners, right? The Northerners are asking, hey, what are we going to do at sunrise? Because, of course,
Yeah.
as we know, they're kind of the old school of orcs that can't really move under the sunlight.
No. And of course, he has this wonderful response. What are you going to do? Sit and wait for the Rohirrim to come and join the picnic? I love that. And we'll talk more about that later. But then he talks about the mountain maggots. This discussion about, they're not going to see their holes again. They're only half trained. This is really, man, this is what made me think this was a good time for a sidebar, huh?
Oh, yeah. This is a perfect time to talk about the different breeds of orcs because, we're seeing sort of the way they feel about each other, right?
Yeah.
So let's break down again the groups we have. We talked about this last time, but we've got examples of the Northern Orcs from Moria.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Grishnak's crew from Mordor.
Yeah.
And then we've got the new and improved Urak-Hai from Isengard.
Orc version 2.0. Be sure to upgrade today.
That's right.
Look, it's probably a good time to talk about orcs in general. We've adopted the official position of their origin in the Silmarillion as corrupted elves, but we are well aware that Tolkien's final view, or I should say the last view that he held before his death, was that orcs were bred for men. Because who knows, if he'd lived another 5 years...
If he'd lived another 5 years, he could have changed it 5 more times.
Yeah, so we do know that his most recent view is that orcs were bred from men. And the day may come when we dive into the history of Middle-earth and discuss the origin of orcs, but it is not this day.
No.
Truthfully, though, I have to admit, I'm honestly surprised that it hasn't been one of our Patreon special topics. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
We'll just leave that there.
Just put that right there on the table. You don't have to pick that up. We did ask our research assistant, Thomas Karoth, though, to dive into the topic, and he sure did, I have to say.
Oh, he gave us some fantastic research, and I think we'll probably end up getting into some more of the stuff he found for us in the postscript for this episode.
Yeah.
But we really want to focus the episode today on the actual differences between each, I guess you can call them breeds or types or clans, I don't know, of orcs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, first let's talk about the Northerners. What do we know about them from the text? Well, they're smaller than both the Mordor orcs and the Uruks-Hai, but they can see very, very well in the dark, and they seem to be the least able to run under the sun. Now, outside of that, we honestly don't know much about the Moria orcs really in terms of other differences, but we can deduce that they are essentially what's left of the orc armies once led by Azog and then later by Bolg.
That's about as much as we can deduce, I guess, but somebody else might be able to deduce their numbers, huh?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Thomas actually pointed us to an article in Mythlore from 1990 by Tom Loback. This article was entitled Orc Hosts, Armies, and Legions, a Demographic Study. Now, we don't have the time to get into the details of Tom's article, though it is really fascinating stuff.
It really is. And it is available online. Just, Google that in Mythlore and you'll find it. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I can tell you is that his conclusions are based on a really, I would say, very well thought out and pretty lengthy argument.
Yeah.
He suggests that there were only about 5,000 to 15,000 of these northern orcs left.
That's right. And that's similar in numbers, a little bit less, than the 10 to 20,000 that Saruman led. But, those pale in comparison to the 250 to 350,000 under Sauron's command.
Wow.
Those are some numbers. And that combines both the ones in Mordor and the ones at Dol Guldur.
Okay, right.
So let's talk a little bit about Sauron's orcs being the most numerous. We see Grishnak described as a short, crook-legged creature, very broad, with long arms that hung almost to the ground. And when he returns later in the chapter, we're going to see that he had at his back a couple of score of others like him, long-armed, crook-legged orcs. Now, are these representative of all of Sauron's orcs? Not likely.
No.
We know that Sauron has Uruks, black orcs of great strength, and that they first showed up in the last years of Denethor I. That's from the appendix. Now, that's certainly before 2475, which is well over 500 years ago at this point. To help you kind of put that in the timeline, Denethor I was the grandfather of Cirion, and he was, of course, the steward who formed the alliance with Eorl and gave the land that would come to be known as Rohan to the men of the Mark. So we're talking about a long way back.
Right. And those Uruks were powerful, right? I mean, by 2475, which is how we know that they were around by that date, they had actually taken Osgiliath.
Mm-hmm.
But those Uruks don't seem to be the Urak-Hai.
Right.
In Morgoth's Ring, Tolkien says in the Third Age, Saruman rediscovered this, or learned of it in lore, and in his lust for mastery committed this, his wickedest deed, the interbreeding of orcs and men. So the Urak-Hai, then, are the result of this genetic abomination. They're more intelligent, though, let's be clear, it's a low bar saying they're more intelligent than the average orc.
That is true.
But they're also stronger and larger and more capable in sunlight than either the Mordor orcs or those from the north.
Yeah, certainly more than those from the north. Now, if Sauron had Uruks, was Grishnak an Uruk? I have to say, it seems unlikely given his stature. I mean, he doesn't sound like a black orc of great strength, but maybe.
Right.
Here's the thing. The difference between he and Ugluk when we see the physical confrontation between them seems pretty dramatic. But truth is, it's hard to say, and we genuinely can't conclude whether he is or is not.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think all we have is just the description of him, and I think you're right. This idea of him, long arms hanging to the ground and the fact that he's short, it seems to suggest that he's not, but we just can't say for sure.
No.
Now, one more interesting tidbit that Thomas brought to us, though there is unfortunately a lot we're having to leave out for the sake of time.
True.
The differences between the Urak-Hai and Grishnak's orcs are even more interesting in the early drafts of this chapter.
Oh, yeah.
So if you look to the Treason of Isengard, Christopher Tolkien points out that Ugluk does not originally use the word halflings, but instead calls them hobbits, and says, "We are the servants of the old Uthwit and the White Hand." And he explains that Uthwit comes from the Old English Uthwita, meaning sage, philosopher, one of great learning.
Oh,
that is, Saruman.
Right.
So it's really interesting to see the Old English influence spreading beyond just the Rohirrim and actually hearing orcs use Old English.
I can't even imagine that, right? Orcs actually using Old English. It seems just completely beyond what I would expect. But
yeah,
I like that. I like that old version. That's pretty interesting.
That is really cool. Now, while we're on the topic of linguistics, I want to just add one more thing in here because I know somebody's going to point it out. So, we're saying that the Uruk-Hai are different from the Uruks. Somebody's going to point out that Hai is just black speech for the people, right? So linguistically, there's no difference between Uruk-Hai and Uruk. It's the same word. It's just one is orc people. But again, we're talking about the application.
Right.
The application of that name specific to where we are in the Third Age right now it's a very different breed of orc for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to call it, we could just say Saruman's Uruk orcs and what's left of Sauron's Uruks.
Yeah.
We can call them both Uruks, but
yeah,
if Grishnak is an Uruk, he's clearly a very different breed than Ugluk.
But he's not Uruk-Hai the way Ugluk is.
Yeah. Uruk-Hai, it's not like, they're higher Uruks, like they're, Uruk improved.
Right.
It's just people, like Sean said, but
yeah,
they are definitely different from Sauron's Uruks, it would seem.
Yeah.
So, well, as we get back to the story, the host now, the orc host, is running now very quickly. Each hobbit is guarded by 3 orcs because, of course, hobbits are a danger. I don't know. Why do they have to put?
I know. Why do we have to
3 orcs?
Maybe 3 orcs is like it's a triangle, so any direction they run.
I
don't know. I'm reaching.
Seems a little overkill to me. If you're, if I'm Ugluk, why am I putting 3 orcs on each one? Where are they going to go?
Considering they're 3 feet tall. Yeah,
exactly. And Pippin is very awake, thanks, it seems, to the orc liquor.
Well, there you go. Maybe the orc liquor was coffee, not whiskey.
Yeah, maybe coffee would work. I mean, certainly it feels, you feel the fire of it going through your limbs and it wakes you up. And
maybe it's Red Bull. I don't know.
There you go. Maybe it's Irish coffee.
Oh, well, see, that makes too much sense.
It does,
the
doesn't
coffee
it?
And the whiskey. Yeah.
Right. I know. All right.
Well, while he's awake, he starts having this vision, right? Now and again, he gets this vision of Strider running and looking at the ground.
That is some inspiration, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's almost like this idea is coming to him, maybe to give him some hope.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is this is coming from the outside. This is not Pippin's own foreknowledge or his own instinct or anything like this. This has got to be a vision given to him by the Valar.
It does seem like it, and I have to think it's there to give him hope
and instruction. Like, hey, here's what you're going to see. Right. Do something about it. Make this search that you're going to see Strider engaged in worthwhile.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right about that. Because as soon as he has this vision, he immediately doesn't really think much of it because he's like,
no.
Well, what could even a ranger see? It's just this confused trail. It's like the end of what you read is like, well, there's nothing. He's not going to see us if he's looking for us.
No.
But then he still does what he does when he does it later on.
Which we'll get to in the next reading. But yeah. This seems like instruction. Like, wake up, Pippin. You need to do something about this. Yeah.
I think, oh, that's really cool. I can't wait to get into that after my reading in a minute.
Yeah, agreed.
But first, we've got this little paragraph that we didn't read, but it just describes how, the ground is soft and wet,
Right.
and kind of set the stage for us a little bit. It's early evening, and we see the last rays of the sickle moon.
And that's when Pippin gets an idea, and that's where I'm going to have you pick up.
All right. A sudden thought leaped into Pippin's mind, and he acted on it at once. He swerved aside to the right, and dived out of the reach of his clutching guard, head first into the mist. He landed sprawling on the grass.
Halt!
Yelled Ugluk. There was for a moment turmoil and confusion. Pippin sprang up and ran, but the orcs were after him. Some suddenly loomed up right in front of him. No hope of escape, thought Pippin. But there is a hope that I have left some of my own marks unspoilt on the wet ground. He groped with his 2 tied hands at his throat, and unclasped the brooch of his cloak. Just as long arms and hard claws seized him, he let it fall. There I suppose it will lie until the end of time, he thought. I don't know why I did it. If the others have escaped, they've probably all gone with Frodo. A whip thong curled round his legs, and he stifled a cry.
Enough!
Shouted Ugluk, running up.
He's still got to run a long way yet. Make 'em both run. Just use the whip as a reminder.
So Pippin runs to the right, lands in the grass in the mist. I love this. So he's, the orcs have got to think he's trying to escape, but he knows better. And he gets up and runs again, and he knows, I'm not going to get away, but I've left marks on the ground.
That's right. And then he does something even more brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
He unclasps the brooch and lets it fall.
And he's only able to do that because earlier he had gotten his hands free.
That's right. And again, going back to what we were talking about a moment ago, as he's doing this, he's like, I don't even know why I did that.
Ah, yeah.
If the others are still around, they must have all gone with Frodo. Why did I do this? Nobody's coming after me.
Why did I do this? Those thoughts kept coming to my mind unbidden.
Yeah. And then he acts on those thoughts almost like, not unbidden, but almost
Instinctually.
Almost instinctual. It's almost like he's inspired to do this by some other will. I'm not saying
this
he
very
is, but...
specific thing that he would not ordinarily have thought of doing, that he even consciously is thinking, why did I do this? Yeah.
Right. This is like the equivalent of characters speaking with words that they don't know where those words come from.
Right.
Pippin is doing something that he doesn't really know why he's doing it. And
that's correct.
I think you're spot on when you said that this is inspiration. That's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
At first I was thinking, well, maybe he's just got a little shred of hope.
I don't know that I would have thought about this in that way had we not recently done that Patreon special on dreams and gone through that whole idea. Was this a dream that was sent externally or something that just came up because of his experiences? But all of that talk about the influence of the Valar through dreams.
Yeah.
And then the fact that here, it was a vision unbidden. It just kind of clicked in my head. I thought, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is coming from the outside. This is coming from Valinor.
Yeah, I think you're right.
This is definitely an intervention of, if not Iluvatar himself, then at least of the Valar. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Amazing. Love this. And then, of course, the whip thong grabs him around the leg, and he falls and stifles a cry. Ugluk, interesting, tells him that's enough. He's still got to run, but, I promise you, he's not going to forget.
No.
And that's when we get the legate that we just talked about, too. I shan't forget.
That's right.
Payment's only put off in legate.
Leg it, or I'm going to give you a knuckle sandwich.
I got 5 reasons why you should run.
Yep.
And you can't see it, folks, because this is a podcast, but I'm pulling my 5 fingers together to make a fist, just in case you were wondering.
Of course. Well, you got to get in character. If you're going to do voice acting, you got to.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I'd call what we do voice acting.
Well, no. What you did just now was voice acting. What I do is not voice acting, but what you just did.
Fancy reading is what we do. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and pick up next with the continuation of the Dark Journey, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up there.
All right.
Neither Pippin nor Merry remembered much of the later part of the journey. Evil dreams and evil waking were blended into a long tunnel of misery, with hope growing ever fainter behind. They ran and they ran, striving to keep up pace set by the orcs, licked every now and again with a cruel thong cunningly handled. If they halted or stumbled, they were seized and dragged for some distance. The warmth of the orc draft had gone. Pippin felt cold and sick again. Suddenly, he fell face downward on the turf. Hard hands with rending nails gripped and lifted him. He was carried like a sack once more, and darkness grew about him. Whether the darkness of another night or a blindness of his eyes, he could not tell. Dimly, he became aware of voices clamoring. It seemed that many of the orcs were demanding a halt. Ugluk was shouting. He felt himself flung to the ground, and he lay as he fell till black dreams took him. But he did not long escape from pain. Soon the iron grip of merciless hands was on him again. For a long time he was tossed and shaken, and then, slowly, the darkness gave way, and he came back to the waking world and found that it was morning. Well, that's a despairing passage to read.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Yeah, it is. This is just pure misery. I mean, going back to the beginning with just,
Yeah.
and look, evil dreams and evil waking blended into a long tunnel of misery. I mean, that's
just dark.
It is dark. And then hope growing ever fainter behind. I mean,
yeah.
This is bad. This almost reminds me of like Merry after he gets, struck by the Black Breath.
Oh, yeah.
After Pelennor Fields.
This is just despairing.
I'm sure that passage is much more, intense than this one. But
yeah.
This is pretty rough.
This is rough. Continual running, trying desperately to keep up, because every time you don't keep up, you're whipped.
You're whipped.
Or you're seized and dragged. Oh.
Yeah.
And the orc drink isn't helping anymore.
No, not quite. No.
Caffeine's gone, or whatever it is, the
whatever
whiskey.
That effect is. Yeah.
Man. Speaking of drinks, I think there needs to be a mixed drink called a Long Tunnel of Misery. And it's blended with Evil Dreams and Evil Waking, which could be like brand names of some specific...
Probably some sort of tequila and...
it's like a Long Island iced tea or whatever. It's a Long Tunnel of Misery.
Evil Dreams and Evil Waking. Yep. It's going to be one of those that has like Tabasco sauce in it.
No. If you ever want me to drink,
there's so much that you don't like about that. I know.
Yeah, exactly. Tabasco sauce chief among them.
Man, I love Tabasco. Come on.
Yeah, well, I think in fairness, and I'll say this only because my parents will never listen to the podcast. When I was a child, I was punished for lying by having drops of Tabasco sauce placed directly on my tongue.
Oh, wow.
And it was an algorithmic curve. So the first time was a drop. The second time was 2. Then it was 4. Then it was 8. And then it would have been 16, except that I stopped at 8. Or at least I stopped getting caught. I mean, I started getting smarter because there was no way in the heck I was going to have that happen. And when you're like 7 years old and having all that Tabasco sauce dripped on your tongue, and you're just like, ah!
Oh, man. As a Louisiana native, there's something so sad to me about hot sauce being used as punishment.
Well, there was something rather sad to me too.
Sure, because you still have the scars.
Oh, I know. It's like I can't even. That stuff just no.
It's a wonder you can even do a podcast
with my tongue all damaged and all.
Right? Yeah.
My tongue is numb.
My tongue, stomach. It's
Jar.
Anyway, so Pippin falls.
Yeah.
And, of course, even that is no reprieve for him because he's just carried like a sack.
Oh.
He's losing track of time. This is, again, just endless misery.
This idea that he literally doesn't know if the darkness is night or a blindness of his eyes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is just awful.
And then he just sort of barely comes out of it a little bit. Just, audible sensation here. He hears the orcs demanding a halt. He hears Ugluk shouting again, of course, because Ugluk...
Yeah, it's a terrible alarm clock, by the way.
Yeah. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! That is not going to be as popular a product as our Gollum GPS.
No, it will not.
Our Ugluk alarm clock voice will not really be a
No, it will not. Especially if we develop a prototype that I'm thinking of where when you hit snooze, it reaches out and whips you.
Yep.
Oh, man. Terrible, terrible stuff. So it is morning, and needless to say, Pippin is fighting with despair. I mean...
Well, yeah, he is, of course.
Yeah. We don't read that part, but it's in the next line later that he's fighting with despair. I can't imagine why.
What is wrong with you, Pippin? Come on.
Seriously. Chin up.
Keep your chin up, bud.
That's right.
It's tough, man.
It is.
But I do want to point out, this is the morning of the 28th.
Yes.
And this is the very morning where Aragorn puts his ear to the ground to listen. Remember, we talked about that a few episodes ago. So, hope is behind literally. Estelle is behind.
Yes, it is.
So Pippin's head swam,
Mm-hmm.
presumably from the orc draft. He's probably feeling a bit drunk.
Yeah, and then he does get some bread and a, quote, strip of raw dried flesh. So
Mm.
I'm not sure what this is, but knowing their predilection for
Man flesh.
For man
I'm
flesh,
thinking this is
yeah.
some sort of man jerky. And so, he wisely says, I'll just take the bread, thank you.
Yeah, this is definitely a flight you want to choose the vegetarian meal on.
Yeah, he's not going to go keto on this trip. That's for sure.
No.
The flesh, if he dared not guess what creature. Whoa.
I mean, we saw in the last episode, what? They eat man flesh and they eat orc flesh, basically. So it's probably one of those. I'm guessing this is not Wagyu jerky. Just throwing that out there.
No, probably not. So he sits up and he looks around and he sees that Mary's not far away, which is good,
Mm-hmm. And he sees they're near a river, which happens to be the Entwash. We know that. And he can see mountains and a forest.
Yeah. So, I mean, all right. Well, he's starting to get his bearings. If only he had actually looked at the maps when he was in Rivendell, as we'll learn. But,
oh, that again. Come on.
Yeah. Well, So before we drink any more Orc Draft, we wanted to remind you to visit our website, theprancingponypodcast.com, as we've made some improvements recently.
Yeah, we still have all the good stuff there. We've got show notes, outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, as well as our online storefront where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
And one of the best resources we have there is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books that we mention here.
Yeah, we may talk about a lot of different Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, but folks, at heart, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien. That's why we have the library page, with links to every book we've ever mentioned on the show.
Now, we do make a few pennies from the purchases that you make from those links, so thank you for your support. Well, we're about to see another orc debate, but, maybe they'd relax a bit if they had some good candles.
I bet they would. And you know what? We're pleased to welcome back Mythology Candles to the PPP. Mythology Candles allows you to create more immersive experiences in everyday life with their fantasy-inspired candles.
Their tale-inspired collection lets you step right into Middle-earth with scents such as the Ranger. Smells like war-beaten leather and trampled leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have atmospheric scents like bearded tree and wizard's pipeweed, or fun ones like double breakfast, which smells like maple pancakes, all aiming to bring the story right into your home.
Double breakfast is actually especially fantastic, I have to say.
Is it?
Oh, it's wonderful. They also have a range of fantasy-inspired scents like The Alchemist, which smells like stepping into an old alchemy lab, and Dwarven Forge, which smells like you are actually in a dwarven mine.
Oh, how cool is that?
And if you're also a fan of C.S. Lewis, check out their new winter collection inspired by The Chronicles of Narnia.
Mythology candles are handmade with vegan, eco-friendly coconut wax, crackling wooden wicks, and natural fragrances that are designed to instantly transport you to another realm. So if you're a fan of Tolkien, RPGs, and historic fantasies, check out Mythology candles.
If you're looking for a little something extra to set the right atmosphere for watching a movie, reading a book, or gaming, they really help set the scene. If you place a $50 order, you'll automatically get a free 2-ounce candle, no coupon code needed. Head to their website at Mythology, spelled with an I-E instead of a Y, candles.com.
That's MYTHOLOGIE candles.com. All right, so it's time to get back to Merry and Pippin and their long tunnel of misery. Sean, I'm going to go ahead and have you pick up right there.
All right. There was much shouting and debating among the orcs. A quarrel seemed on the point of breaking out again between the Northerners and the Isengarders.
No,
Some
a
were
quarrel?
pushing back.
A quarrel
Shocking,
between
right?
orcs?
Never.
I am shocked.
Never.
Shocked, I
know.
tell you.
Behave yourselves, boys. Come on. Some were pointing back away south, and some were pointing eastward.
Very well,
said Ugluk.
leave them to me then. No killing, as I've told you before, but if you want to throw away what we've come all the way to get, throw it away. I'll look after it. Let the fighting Urak-Hai do the work as usual. If you're afraid of the Whiteskins, run! Run! There's the forest!
He shouted, pointing ahead.
Get to it! It's your best hope. Off you go, and quick, before I knock a few more heads off to put some sense into the others.
There was some cursing and scuffling. and then most of the northerners broke away and dashed off, over 100 of them, running wildly along the river towards the mountains. The hobbits were left with the Isengarders, a grim, dark band, 80 at least of large, swart, slant-eyed orcs with great bows and short, broad-bladed swords. A few of the larger and bolder northerners remained with them.
Now we'll deal with Grishnak,
said Ugluk. But some even of his own followers were looking uneasily southwards.
For good reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, not surprisingly, the shouting and quote-unquote debate begins with finger-pointing, but not the typical blame assignment that you might expect. Instead, they're pointing away south, or they're pointing to the east, which will be interesting to find out why.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ugluk, look, you northerners can leave, and we'll, the fighting Urak-Hai, the mighty us, the great orcs, will do the job. We'll do.
Once again, kind of the chest pounding that Ugluk loves to do.
Big time.
We're the fighters. We're the good guys. Not the good guys. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
we're the tough guys.
We're the solid orcs.
We're the killing
reliable
machines.
orcs. That's right.
Yeah, we're the ones you can count on. So if you guys are afraid of the men, go ahead, go to the forest before I chop anyone else's heads off.
Right.
Again, just ordinary civilized discourse.
That's right. This is
the way you discuss
Mm-hmm.
differences of opinion.
It's like representative government.
Honestly, it's not that different.
It's not far off anymore. I will say that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
We'll leave that there. But yeah, over 100 of the northerners leave, but some of the stronger ones do stay.
They'd have to be pretty strong, I think, because they're already going to feel like outsiders to begin with. They don't like
True.
running in sunlight.
Yeah.
But kudos to those few northerners to stick around, I suppose.
I mean, they must be the ones who probably feel some sort of, affinity for the Isengarders. Maybe they are the big tough ones that, they're like, oh, we want to hang with these guys anyway because they're more like us,
Yeah, that could be.
Probably a bit of self-preservation, too. They probably have been throwing their lot in with Ugluk's guys for a while now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But the numbers are interesting. They reveal a little something, right? So we get that over 100 of them dashed off, and then they're left with 80 at least. So we've got at least 80 Uruks-Hai. These are the large, swart, slant-eyed orcs, and they are equipped with great bows and, interestingly, short, broad-bladed swords, not scimitars, as we've seen before with other orcs.
That's true. We usually see scimitars with orcs, don't we? So the Urak-Hai do use something different. Yeah.
The curved blades.
That's interesting. I wonder if there's something... I don't know enough about like the history of weapons. Somebody might know this. Maybe we can look into it for a postscript. I wonder if there's something about a short, broad-bladed sword that is makes it a battlefield weapon more so than a scimitar. I mean, I know obviously scimitars were extensively used by certain cultures, but
they were. That's true.
I don't know.
I mean, a short, broad-bladed sword is. I'm immediately imagining your typical Roman sword.
Yeah, like a Roman
centurion sword. Right. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, scimitar's just a different weapon, I suppose. But
yeah,
it is interesting because, of course, Saruman really did create this force to be an offensive fighting force, not just, a bunch of slaves to do the work,
right?
But, combat ready, tough orcs. These are the elite. These are the special forces of the orcs.
Right, exactly. And that's why I wonder if the choice of swords is...
exactly. I wonder the same thing.
...is intentional on that part. I'd love to look into it. But in the text, Ugluk is like, all right, we got those scum out of here. Now let's deal with Grishnak.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, we get this aside to Snaga about the scouts. This is, he's blaming Snaga for the fact that the Rohirrim have gotten wind of them. And, his point is like, look, we would have preferred to avoid fighting the Rohirrim because, look, there's only 80 plus infantry versus 120 mounted. So you've already got a 50% deficit in numbers, and plus they're mounted. So I'd want to avoid combat too if I could help it.
Yeah, I would think so. Short, broad-bladed swords, scimitars, no matter what you got, you want to avoid those cavalry.
They're not equipped with pikes.
Right. Now, by the way, you mentioned Snaga, and although Snaga is capitalized here, and it does appear to be a name here just because of the way it is capitalized, in Appendix F, we're actually told that Snaga means slave.
Yes.
It was actually a word that the Urak-Hai called lesser kinds of orcs. Anyway,
that's right.
So
this is an insult of a name, by the way.
I mean, I assume... Well, I don't know what to assume, honestly. I don't know if Tolkien was actually thinking when he wrote this, well, I've already got this name Snaga in my head, so I'm just going to use this as as an actual name for an orc, or if this is just Ugluk calling a guy Snaga. I could kind of go either way.
That's the thing. It might not be his name. It might just be the same.
Just him insulting him.
Him insulting
like he calls people maggots. not people.
Right.
He calls orcs maggots, yeah.
Well, right.
But it is capitalized here anyway. It's not.
I
It's not,
know.
like, italicized. So I don't know.
Hmm.
It's probably just an insult. I don't
It would be odd to have your name literally be slave.
be slave. I know. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how do orcs get named? Do their parents like, oh, what should we name our baby orc? Because we do know they reproduce the same way that
They do.
the
They
children
do.
of Iluvatar reproduce. So
That's true. So yeah,
I don't want to think about that conversation, but there is a conversation where orc
Yeah.
parents, or at least an orc mom who's, I don't know, somebody somewhere is naming these things.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Somebody decided to give Ugluk his name Ugluk,
Right.
but that might have been Saruman. Who knows?
It could have been. Well, and we just don't really know. I mean,
If he's a first gen blend,
he could have been. I don't. I don't even know where to go with this. I mean, he would have been bred under controlled conditions. I guess.
Right.
It's not like he was cloned. It's
test tube baby.
test tube baby. That's it. It's not like he was grown in a vat covered by some strange film. I guess
No, he was not. No. Nor did we have a situation where, an orc daddy and an orc mommy loved each other very much. And so then we get a new Ugluk.
I don't think orc parents love each other very much.
I don't think they
Maybe.
do either.
I don't know. Maybe they do.
Oh, man.
But anyway, yeah, Snaga just means slave. So whether you want to take it as somebody's actual given name, or if you just want to assume he's just calling this guy Snaga, which is kind of where I lean.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I'm going to pick up shortly after that, after Ugluk talks about the lovely snack they might have of horse flesh, which they apparently think is second only to man flesh. So,
Well,
yeah.
they're gourmands. What can you say?
Don't you go back into that cannibalism discussion again, Sean. I'm
not,
starting to
I'm
really
not.
worry about you and
I'm
that
not.
smoker that you've got there in your backyard.
What are you really cooking in there, Sean?
If you ever invite me, I'm bringing my own meats. So, all right.
I will serve you the flesh if you dare not guess what creature.
That's right. Do you have any gray stale bread? I'll just take that. I'm going vegetarian. You'll know something's wrong, by the way, if I ever say that.
I would totally, yeah.
So I'm going to pick up there.
All right.
At that moment, Pippin saw why some of the troop had been pointing eastward. From that direction there now came hoarse cries, and there was Grishnak again, and at his back a couple of score of others like him, long-armed, crook-legged orcs. They had a red eye painted on their shields. Ugluk stepped forward to meet them.
So you've come back,
He said,
thought better of it, eh?
I've returned to see that orders are carried out and the prisoners safe,
answered Grishnak.
Indeed, said Ugluk. Waste of effort. I'll see that orders are carried out in my command. And what else did you come back for? You went in a hurry. Did you leave anything behind?
I left a fool, snarled Grishnak. But there were some stout fellows with him that are too good to lose. I knew you'd lead them into a mess. I've come to help them.
Splendid, laughed Ugluk. But unless you've got some guts for fighting, you've taken the wrong way. Lugberts was your road. The Whiteskins are coming. What's happened to your precious Nazgul? Has he had another mount shot under him? Now, if you'd brought him along, that might have been useful. If these Nazgul are all they make out.
Nazgul,
said Grishnak, shivering and licking his lips, as if the word had a foul taste that he savored painfully.
You speak of what is deep beyond the reach of your muddy dreams, Ugluk, he said. Nazgul. Ah, all that they make out. One day you'll wish that you'd not said that, ape,
He snarled fiercely.
You ought to know that they're the apple of the great eye. But the winged Nazgul, not yet, not yet. He won't let them show themselves across the great river yet, not too soon. They're for the war and other purposes.
That's not ominous at all.
Not at all,
At
at
all,
all. No, my goodness. And other purposes.
Yeah. All right. Well, going back to the beginning of your passage, we see Grishnak first coming
Mhm.
back. Where's he been? Did he go to the river?
Yeah, well, I think it's time for a little mini sidebar. The answer is yes, and we'll find that out from the scheme, which tells us February 27, Grishnak reaches Sarngebir. Another Nazgul has arrived with advice. He is to pursue Ugluk. Nazgul sets his orcs across the river. That would be Grishnak, hastens off northwest to intercept Ugluk.
Well, there you go. I thought he had just gone to the bathroom, but okay.
It's just a long break. You can tell he's got his newspaper with him.
Right, exactly. No, continuing on, still in the scheme. February 28th, Isengarders pass the north end of Downs at 4:30 a.m., rest at a point 5 miles beyond. At 5 a.m., they go on till 10 a.m., and are then 24 miles north of Downs and turn toward eaves of Fangorn. Hammond and Skull point out the error here, that there's actually no time for them to cover the 5 miles and rest and then start again.
Yeah.
Back to the scheme, Tolkien says they rest till 10:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
They then see riders following. Also, they see Grishnach and his orcs coming from river. From 11:25, all orcs fly together without rest, but 1 mile short of Fangorn, they are overtaken.
They should have started at 11:20, I suppose.
Probably.
We also get an extra note in the scheme that Hammond and Skull point out. Forced march of Grishnach. Flies from Emin Muil when defeated by Ugluk, evening 26 February. Reaches Sarngebir late on 27. He has more than 100 miles to go to point where he intercepts Ugluk about 30 miles north of Downs, about 11:20 a.m. on the 29th. This he does between midnight, 27:28, and 11:20 on the 29th, about 35 hours. 35 hours, 100 miles.
That's a lot for a group this big, right?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I know that's only 3 miles an hour, but that's 3 miles an hour without any sleep at all for a day and a half. Yeah.
Right.
Which is obviously not quite how they did it, but yeah.
Wow, they are trucking.
They are.
Now, we also get an early note where Tolkien worked out that orcs' usual pace is a steady 4 miles per hour. They can keep this up for 5 hours, but then need 1 hour rest. They can thus cover at need 4 times 20, 80 miles per day. So that's a little less than 130 kilometers. And can do this for 5 days and then need long rest, so in 5 days they can cover 400 miles, but must then rest. At need, for short period, they can trot from 6 miles per hour for about 50 miles.
Wow.
Isengarders could go a little faster and need only half-hour rests. Wow.
6 miles an hour for 50 miles? That is some serious effort.
That is fast.
That is really fast. Okay, so if I'm doing my math right, that would be about 9 hours to cover 50 miles?
Yeah.
A little less than that, right? About
less
8 and
than
a half?
that, yeah. Like you figure 6 miles per hour, so they're covering 24 miles in 4 hours.
Right. Okay, so yeah.
Just
like
over 8 hours,
8.2.
really. Yeah.
Which means they're doing a marathon in about 4 hours. Now, okay, the world record for a marathon is a little over 2 hours, right? But come on, that's insanely fast.
Yeah.
For a very long period of time.
Right.
Man, they are moving.
It's incredible.
It really is.
Absolutely incredible.
Just think what they would do if they weren't like short and crook-legged.
Right. Or, burdened with all the armor that they've got.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Grishnach comes back and he's got 40 other of these long-armed, crook-legged orcs. So now when we add that to the number that left, the number that remained, and this number that's come back, that means there were at least 250 orcs in the original attack near Parthgalen.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And then, of course, we get Ugluk and Grishnach's friendly chat, because they're so kind to one another.
They really
Grishnach, look, I've come back to make sure that orders are followed.
Well, duh, what did you leave behind,
Yeah, a fool.
Because I have to get that in. I have to get that insult in,
I know, right? Gotta dump that on him. And then a couple of these guys are okay. I'd rather not lose them.
Right. Well, and I guess you better be ready to fight because the Whiteskins are coming. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They're just charming. They're just chatting it up.
Friendly guys, old mates.
Yeah.
And then Ugluk says something. I don't know if he should have said this. He asks about the Nazgul.
Oh.
Doesn't just ask. He actually pokes a little bit.
He insults them. Yeah. I love that. Has he had another mount shot under him? So he knows about Legolas' shot at the river. Probably because, I don't know, either he was there or he got the message from Grishnach about what happened.
Was it that one, or was he talking about the ford with the horse?
Oh, yeah. That's
I wonder.
possible. Well, but it's another mount shot.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So, yeah, he must be talking about Legolas's shot at the river.
Wow.
Has to
that's
be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Boy, that is interesting.
Yeah, that must be it. Wow.
To have the guts to say that.
I know.
To an orc of Barad-dûr is... Well, it just reminds you how superior Ugluk sees himself in the Isengarders.
Right. And then he says, look, they might have been useful if they're all they make out.
Oh, man, that's great. Yeah.
And, of course, Grishnach's response is classic. And
Oh, yeah.
calls him ape, which just makes me think of Charlton Heston.
I know.
Damn
Take
dirty
your
ape.
stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
I love that. Oh, man.
Yeah.
And it's funny coming from Grishnach, the one with the long arms practically trailing the ground, that he calls the more tall, upright, stronger one, calls him
That's
the
a
ape.
solid point. Yeah, that is a really good point. Yeah.
And it is kind of another one of those slightly, well, it's not really an anachronistic term because it's not about time. It's more like what is an ape in this world? There's no evidence, no textual evidence, at least of primates of any sort. So I don't know.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
It's a word that kind of doesn't quite fit, but I love it because
I love it. I think it's great. I mean,
It is.
It could just be maybe a translation thing,
that's true. That's true.
Thinking about the
into
frame
Westron.
narrative, maybe this is
Mhm.
a rendering of, I don't know.
Because even if he's speaking in Westron then gets translated into English
Right.
in the frame narrative. So yeah,
Right.
there's that too. But oh man, he definitely
He waxes poetic about the Nazgul for a bit.
He does. He does. The apple of the great eye.
Oh,
I
man.
love that. Deep beyond the reach of your dreams. I mean, wow.
He's basically writing a Valentine's Day card for the Nazgul.
Roses are red,
You are
violets
the
are
apple
blue.
of the great eye.
Nazgul are winged, and you're not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
That's great. I love it.
But yeah, he says, look, the winged Nazgul are not yet allowed across the river. They're actually being held back for certain purposes, war,
Mm-hmm.
and other things.
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, Ugluk, of course, like, look, you know a lot, probably more than you should. Get your rabble and get moving,
Yeah.
This is where we get the other legging it. The other swine are legging it to the forest. You certainly wouldn't make it back to the river alive, so get going.
Now, before we move on, I think it's probably something we probably do need to acknowledge here. I think we've seen a couple of examples of some of that, let's just say some of that difficult language.
Yeah. Clearly, this is where that comes quite strongly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I'm talking about, some of the language that can be seen as racially coded.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen both the orcs referred to as swart and slant-eyed, and we've seen the orcs referring to men as whiteskins, which does suggest a pretty clear divide along the lines of skin color.
Clearly does.
I think especially when it comes to whiteskins, to be fair, I don't think we picked up on that when we did our previous episode on race in Middle-earth, which was 114.
Mm-hmm.
Our fault for missing that. But
True.
But I think it's probably a good time to point out that in just 2 episodes, we are going to be revisiting the subject of race.
Yes, we will.
And we're going to be joined by some listeners who have a different perspective on it than we do as 2 white guys. So
That's true.
that's going to be a really good episode, I think. And we just wanted to point it out here. I mean, I don't think that we really have too much to say about it, except I think it's just worth acknowledging that it's there and not pretending that it's not.
Agreed.
And I think we'll be talking about some more of this stuff in just a couple of episodes when, again, we'll actually have some listeners who've experienced racism in a way that we have not, and they're going to be talking about this. So
I'm looking forward to that as really the second half of an episode we didn't think of as being the first half.
Yeah.
When we talked about race in Tolkien from a more narrow perspective, admittedly. I mean, it wasn't our purpose at the time to address the entirety of the topic of race in Middle-earth. That would take, well, even more than 2 episodes.
Well, at least 2 episodes, more than
but
2
certainly
episodes,
at least
right.
2. Our more narrow approach was specifically to Tolkien and his viewpoints. And
to Tolkien and his intentions. And I think, look, I'm still proud of what we did with that episode. I think we did some good work focusing on Tolkien's intentions and sort of the man he was in his time. But
correct.
But look, we admit that wasn't the whole story. And I think
No.
we were doing what we set out to do with that episode. But
That's right.
sort of realized after the fact, there's a whole other discussion out there that needs to be had. And so I'm glad we're finally having that.
I'm glad we are too. I'm looking forward to having folks on to talk about
Yeah.
that. So next up, I'm going to have you pick up as they race to the forest.
All right. Hour after hour they ran, pausing now and again only to sling the hobbits to fresh carriers. Which is an image, I have to tell you.
I know. 3,
Just
2, 1.
Toss the hobbit.
Nobody tosses a hobbit.
Anyway, back to it. I had to.
I know. I'm
Had to get that
picturing
in
them. It's like a little game,
Yeah, exactly. Lateral passes of the hobbits.
Yeah, exactly. It's like rugby, Oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Forward pass, stop play. Yeah.
Right. Either because they were quicker and hardier, or because of some plan of Grishnach's, The Isengarders gradually passed through the Orcs of Mordor, and Grishnak's folk closed in behind. Soon they were gaining also on the Northerners ahead. The forest began to draw nearer. Pippin was bruised and torn. His aching head was grated by the filthy jowl and hairy ear of the orc that held him. Immediately in front were bowed backs and tough, thick legs going up and down, unresting, as if they were made of wire and horn, beating out the nightmare seconds of an endless time. In the afternoon, Ugluk's troop overtook the Northerners. They were flagging in the rays of the bright sun, winter sun shining in a pale, cool sky though it was. Their heads were down and their tongues lolling out.
"Maggots!"
jeered the Isengarders.
"You're cooked! The Whiteskins will catch you and eat you! They're coming!"
A cry from Grishnak showed that this was not mere jest. Horsemen, riding very swiftly, had indeed been sighted. Still far behind, but gaining on the Orcs, gaining on them like a tide over the flats on folk straying in a quicksand. The Isengarders began to run with a redoubled pace that astonished Pippin, a terrific spurt, it seemed, for the end of a race. Then he saw that the sun was sinking, falling behind the misty mountains. Shadows reached over the land. The soldiers of Mordor lifted their heads and also began to put on speed. The forest was dark and close. Already they had passed a few outlying trees. The land was beginning to slope upwards, ever more steeply, but the Orcs did not halt. Both Ugluk and Grishnak shouted, spurring them on to a last effort. So, yeah, poor Merry and Pippin, treated like baggage again. They're slung on the backs of Orcs.
And tossed around.
And they're just being carried by Orcs running for hour after hour after hour. Just long hours just dragging on.
Just miserable.
Yeah.
And then they catch Grishnak and the other Orcs of Mordor, and then they start closing in on the Northerners. I mean, they are moving. Again, their endurance and pace are incredible. I love this phrase, beating out the nightmare seconds of an endless time.
That is a beautiful phrase for something horrible.
Darkly beautiful. Yeah. Exactly.
Uh-huh.
The nightmare seconds of an endless time. That is so just,
Yeah. So it takes until the afternoon for them to catch the Northerners.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only because the Northerners are actually losing strength in the sun. There's almost like this physical overheating effect. We see their tongues lolling out. They're told you're cooked, even though it's a cool day.
Well, it's February, and it's not going to be super hot.
Right. But this is the sun that's doing this to them. It's not. It's not the fact that it's hot. It's the fact that they're under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Isengarders taunt them,
Yeah.
and then they say again, the Whiteskins are coming, and well, as we see,
and they are. I can almost see this as a great word problem for a math thing. If you've got one group of Orcs traveling at 4.7 miles per hour, and the first group set off 30 minutes ahead of time and is running at 4.4 miles per hour, but suffers a 15% speed penalty after the first 2 hours, at what point does the other group catch them?
right.
And somebody's going to do that math.
Saruman, I'm sure at Saruman's ISD, they probably have that on the standardized tests.
I'm sure they do. The SAT, Sauron's Achievement Test.
There you go. Oh, that's perfect.
I love it. So, of course, the Whiteskins are indeed coming, and the effort intensifies. The sun is sinking, so hopefully now even the northern Orcs might have a chance. And the last great bit of speed, they are being spurred on to that last effort, nearing the forest.
Yeah, sprint to the finish here. Yep.
Yeah, and that is where I'm going to pick up. They will make it yet. They will escape, thought Pippin. And then he managed to twist his neck so as to glance back with one eye over his shoulder. Now we know they are being carried on the back, because you wouldn't do that if you were on the front, if you're being carried like a baby carrier.
Yeah, that's true.
So that confirms the conclusion we'd really reached logically.
That they're not in baby carriers on the front.
Like on the chests of the Orcs, no.
Yeah.
Because that first description, you couldn't tell. Okay, they put their hands together and they put the head between the hands.
Right.
Well, okay. And their faces against their necks. Again,
way.
front of the neck or back of the neck. All right. He saw that riders away eastward were already level with the Orcs, galloping over the plain. The sunset gilded their spears and helmets and glinted in their pale, flowing hair. They were hemming the Orcs in, preventing them from scattering and driving them along the line of the river. He wondered very much what kind of folk they were. He wished now that he had learned more in Rivendell and looked more at maps and things. But in those days, the plans for the journey seemed to be in more competent hands, and he had never reckoned with being cut off from Gandalf. or from Strider, and even from Frodo. All that he could remember about Rohan was that Gandalf's horse Shadowfax had come from that land. That sounded hopeful as far as it went. Yeah.
So, as if he wasn't already despairing enough, now,
Yeah.
going back to the beginning of your passage, Pippin thinks the orcs are going to escape. There's like, okay, there's the forest. They're going to get away. This is it. We're done for.
Yep.
But then he sees the riders galloping, and they're close enough for him to actually see their spears and their helmets and their hair.
Yeah, I love
this
that.
This is amazing. This is like the moment in the Western, like the cavalry's coming.
That is absolutely what it is. I love the effect, too, that we see the sunset giving this golden tint to their spears and helmets and glinting in their flowing hair. It's a beautiful scene, and it is brief but beautiful. And then Pippin observes that they are driving the orcs along the river to the woods.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have to point out, I didn't have this in my notes because I didn't pick up on it until now, but this is a catastrophic scene, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely,
This is like Pippin, this is certain death. He thinks they're done for. He thinks they're going to get away.
Absolutely. Torture and death. I mean, this is worse than death, right?
But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere,
mm-hmm.
maybe not quite the sudden burst of joy, right? Because he doesn't know what's going to happen when the riders catch up. But hey, at least this is a good development.
Well, that's true. It can't be any worse. I mean, he does observe in the part we don't read, that they may not even know that we're not orcs. They probably haven't heard of hobbits.
Right.
He has some regret, though, now. He sees them, and it kind of reminds him, I didn't really do a lot of studying in Rivendell. I don't know anything about the people of this country. I don't really know the geography of this place. I haven't looked at any maps. But by the same token, I honestly never thought I'd be without the people that are leading this thing.
Right. I thought I'd always have these smart guys with me. Yeah.
Even Frodo, even if we did get separated from Gandalf and Strider, I thought for sure I'd always be able to rely on Frodo, who's, of course, much more mature and knows his stuff more than the young Pippin. But he does remember one little thing, doesn't he? He remembers that Shadowfax was from here, so, that can't be all bad.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. The memory of Gandalf and Shadowfax kind of like, all right, so there's something good about this place.
Yeah,
I like that.
There is. And I like that also, knowing what we know about Pippin getting to spend some extended time with Shadowfax later on.
Yeah.
Rides him all the way to Minas Tirith with Gandalf.
That's right. But right now, I mean, he doesn't know anything about the people, and he's concerned, understandably, that the Rohirrim won't know what the heck he and Mary are. I mean, they might think we're orcs,
Small orcs.
Very small orcs.
Very small orcs.
Apples.
Exactly.
Cider.
Ducks. Who you are so wise in the ways of science? Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's been a while.
It has.
Like probably 3 episodes, but still, that's
at
a while
least.
for us.
I know, that is like an eternity in podcast years. Yeah.
Yep.
So then he sees the bowmen shooting at stragglers and even getting a few shots into the Isengarders.
Yeah.
One of them falls right in front of Pippin. I mean, we're getting awfully close ourselves to death at this point.
Yeah, this is scary. This is a scary spot to be in.
Death or rescue, really. Those are the two options at this point.
Yeah. One might even say, out of the frying pan into the fire.
Ooh, one might. One might say exactly that.
But not really. It won't be that bad.
No. And that's where I'm going to have you pick up, though.
All right. Night came down without the riders closing in for battle. Many orcs had fallen, but fully 200 remained. In the early darkness, the orcs came to a hillock. The eaves of the forest were very near, probably no more than 3 furlongs away, but they could go no further. The horsemen had encircled them. A small band disobeyed Ugluk's command and ran on towards the forest. Only 3 returned. "Well, here we are," sneered Krishnach. "Fine leadership. I hope the great Ugluk will lead us out again."
"Put those halflings down,"
ordered Ugluk, taking no notice of Krishnach.
"You, Lugdush, get 2 others and stand guard over them. They're not to be killed unless the filthy whiteskins break through. Understand? As long as I'm alive, I want them. But they're not to cry out, and they're not to be rescued. Bind their legs."
The last part of the order was carried out mercilessly, but Pippin found that for the first time he was close to Merry. The orcs were making a great deal of noise, shouting and clashing their weapons, and the hobbits managed to whisper together for a while. "I don't think much of this," said Merry. "I feel nearly done in. Don't think I could crawl away far even if I was free." "Lembas," whispered Pippin. "Lembas, I've got some. Have you? I don't think they've taken anything but our swords." Yes, I had a packet in my pocket, answered Mary, but it must be battered to crumbs. Anyway, I can't put my mouth in my pocket. You won't have to. But just then a savage kick warned Pippin that the noise had died down, and the guards were watchful.
All right, so night falls, but the riders have not closed in yet. They've just circled them about. And we get more numbers. We now know that there are at least 200 orcs still ready. So that actually tells us there were more than I thought. Originally I said at least 250, but we know that 100 northerners left.
Right.
And we know that Boromir took out at least 20. So we're looking at 320 plus was the original total number.
Big group.
That is a big group.
So now they're hemmed in by the Rohirrim, right? I mean, the forest is less than a half mile away, but they can't get there. They're ringed in.
No.
And Grishnak, of course, because this is what these guys do. Grishnak is just kind of like, sniping at Ugluk. He's pretty bitter.
Good job, Ugluk.
Yeah.
I'm sure, your
Smooth
phenomenal
move.
leadership.
Smooth move, X-Lax.
Oh, gee. Yeah.
And then Ugluk just ignores him.
Of course he does. Because he can,
Yeah.
And then I love his orders, stand guard over the hobbits and don't kill them unless the men break through. Tell me I was not the only one reading that and hearing,
Make sure the hobbits don't leave this hillock until I come and get him.
Make sure he doesn't leave.
Right.
Not to leave the hillock, even if you come and get him.
No, until I come and get him.
Until you come and get him, we're not to enter the hillock.
Look, it's quite simple.
I mean, that's all I could hear the whole time.
Yeah.
That little skit. I love it. I love it. So,
awesome.
that is just great stuff. Pippin and Merry, of course, they have a brief moment to chat. This must be the first chance they've had in a very long time, ever since that bed and breakfast moment at the end of the last episode.
Right. But Mary's in bad shape. I mean,
he is in terrible shape.
He's not even sure that he could crawl away, even if he was free.
Crawl. I don't even think I could crawl away.
Yeah.
That's just, he's at the very end. He's about ready to die now.
He is. But Pippin has a great idea. What about the Lembas?
Yeah. I love Merry. He's still humorous, even though, like we've just discussed, he's really on the verge of death. But he's talking about how, anyway, I can't put my mouth in my pocket. I mean, granted,
Right.
my first instinct is to ask, well, have you tried? But I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're more limber than you think. But
Maybe so. Hey.
yeah,
He used to be pretty flexible back in college, but,
there you go.
not anymore. and Pippin's about to point out, like, look, no, my hands are free. But he doesn't quite get it out because
No.
he's kicked by a guard.
Which is probably good. It's a good thing the guard kicked him then instead of 2 seconds later when the guard would have actually heard him say, my hands are free.
That's a very good point.
I mean, very
Very good point.
fortuitous timing for that kick. Yeah. Well, folks, we don't have any Lembas. And even if we did, we definitely can't put our mouths in our pockets. So we're just going to move on to Bartleman's bag instead. But when that's done, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony.
That's right. Our fantastic listener community keeps the conversation going in all our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you'll find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
And we have some really good discussions going on over on Reddit. You can find us there at r/PrancingPonyPod.
And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @PrancingPonyPod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us and consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
And if you want exclusive content like postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with Sean and me, and episodes without digital ads, then check out patreon.com/prancingponypod, where you can support the show by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. Now, let's take a look at the messages Bartleman's brought us tonight. Sean, what do we have?
All right. Well, first up, Shai K in Israel asks, my question is about the book The Fall of Gondolin. As you already mentioned, the PPP is all about the book, so I guess I'm in the right place. Yes, you are, Shai.
Yeah.
And we're glad to have you here. Shai says, in the prologue to Fall of Gondolin, the author describes in a very chronological way all the major events that happened in the First Age. On page 25, he describes how Middle-earth was before the elves were awake, and he wrote that the orcs were already there. How is this possible? As I understood from the Silmarillion, Melkor created the orcs by distorting and corrupting elves. So if the elves were not there, how could he create the orcs?
That is a good question. We could change our conclusion about the origin of orcs the way Tolkien did, but, well, honestly, that still wouldn't help because men aren't around yet at that time either.
That's true. Yeah.
But the truth is the answer is a lot easier than that. This text, which is Tolkien's own, Christopher transitions into his father's text on page 24, is also Tolkien's very earliest, written in 1926. This puts it in a transitional period between the old Book of Lost Tales version and the later version. And there are still a lot of elements in this prefatory material that would later change. Yavanna's surname, Pelurian, isn't seen again. The White Tree is still named Silpion. The elves that stay behind are called the Ilkorindi. The hill where the elves build their city in Valinor is named Kor, and the city is named Tune. Now, Tune upon Kor does not have the same ring as Tirion upon Tuna. So I frankly like the more recent version. There are other significant differences. I think just knowing that is enough to explain why Tolkien had not yet landed on the idea of elves as the origin of orcs. Now, let alone the fact that he wouldn't even stay on that conclusion either.
Yeah, that's true. I think that really is the simplest answer. I think this is just one of those places where we're getting an early version of the story that just doesn't match up to what we get later on.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things we always have to be prepared for when we're reading Tolkien's unfinished works.
Right.
Early on, someday we're going to get into this really deeply on the show, and I can't wait until we do, but I don't know when. Early on, Tolkien really hadn't quite leaned into that Boethian view we get in the Silmarillion. Think back to season 1 when we talked about the idea that Melkor can't create anything. He can only corrupt it.
Yeah.
In the early texts, we actually do see Melko, as he's known at the time, creating the orcs out of the earth itself. In fact, that's even mentioned in the story of the Fall of Gondolin from the Book of Lost Tales, and it is printed in this volume that Shai is asking about. It's on page 53, where it says, "How it came ever that among men the Noldali have been confused with the orcs, who are Melko's goblins, I know not, unless it be that certain of the Noldali were twisted to the evil of Melko, and mingled among these orcs. For all that race were bred by Melko of the subterranean heats and slime. Their hearts were of granite, and their bodies deformed. Foul their faces, which smiled not, but their laugh that of the clash of metal. And to nothing were they more fain than to aid in the basest of the purposes of Melko. The greatest hatred was between them and the Noldali, who named them Glamhoth, or folk of dreadful hate." So in that passage that I just read, you get this idea that they were made out of subterranean heat and slime. They're just like kind of like these rock and earth monsters. But notice that even in that early version, which was written in 1916, it was actually written even earlier than the sketch that you were just talking about, Alan, which was 1926. Even in that early version, the idea still appears that some of the orcs might actually have been twisted elves. He talks about
that's true. Yeah,
maybe certain of the Noldali were twisted to the evil of Melko. So
and they mingled among these orcs, right?
Yeah. So it's maybe some of them had some twisted elf in them, just not all of them. And so I think because of that, we can allow for the existence of orcs before elves in that early version.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think we have time for one more that serves as a great follow-up to that. Olaf S. in the Netherlands asks a very simple question. I'm very much wondering what your opinions on the Fall of Gondolin are. He's talking about the standalone volume that we just quoted from. Sean?
I like it. Next question.
I know, seriously.
No, seriously. Yeah, no, I mean, I actually really did like it. It is, I mean, of course, it's the prelude to my favorite story in the Legendarium.
Yeah.
The story of Eärendil. So, of course, I'm a fan of it. And I just love the Tuor story anyway. I think one thing to keep in mind, if you don't have it yet, is that there's not really anything new there. Everything in it, except for, Christopher's own, like preface and notes and things like that, everything's already been published in the History of Middle-earth or Unfinished Tales. But, I mean, there are some brilliant illustrations by Alan Lee in there, including one of Ulmo appearing to Tuor and not telling him to leg it to Gondolin.
Leg it, Tuor.
And there's my favorite of Glorfindel fighting a very wingless Balrog.
Quite decidedly wingless, yes.
Yes, very much so. So brilliant illustrations in there, even not counting that. I mean, despite the lack of new material, The Fall of Gondolin is where it all started for Tolkien, so it is kind of essential reading, I think.
Oh, yeah, I agree. It is a must-read for anybody who appreciates the richness of the First Age stories, too.
Yeah.
Tuor is honestly one of my favorite human characters. Really, only Hurin, in my mind, is on par with him in all of the First Age. And to get more of a glimpse into his time in Gondolin, no matter how brief or tragic, is really a joy. This standalone volume simply just fleshes out the story we all know and love in the Third Age as well by bringing all that material together, even though, like you said, there's nothing technically new. It's all assembled in a way that enables you as the reader to get a better viewpoint, to get a better understanding of the story as a whole.
Yeah, to see those changes over time and to,
Yeah.
get a picture of the whole story, for sure.
Now, because of that fragmentary nature, it is a little bit harder to read than the other First Age legends. It's not a single novel the way that the Children of Húrin is. And it's a little bit more fragmentary than the Beren and Luthien story that came out.
Yeah.
But even then, it is absolutely worth the effort.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, you brought up Children of Húrin and Beren and Luthien, and I think each one of those standalone editions of the Great Tales has a really different feel to it.
Yeah.
Like you said, Children of Húrin is a complete novel. That's what makes it unique.
Mm-hmm.
Beren and Luthien is unique because even though it's fragmentary, it has that early version from the Book of Lost Tales, which is completely different, Tevildo and Berens and Gnome and all that stuff. But then it also includes the later version of the story, and it's told in alternating prose and poetry. So in addition to just sort of recounting the story, it also kind of gives you a little bit of the greatest hits from the Lay of Leithian. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
The Fall of Gondolin, though, it basically just collects the different versions that are out there. So you've got the complete version in Book of Lost Tales, which is very different, to like the novel-length version from the 1950s that Tolkien started, but didn't get past Tuor's arrival in Gondolin. So, you get these different versions, and because they're packaged together, you can kind of see how the story developed over time, and it is really striking to see that development. I think for that reason alone, if nothing else, it's worth reading, because if you read it cover to cover, you're going to just have read the early version, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember how this was different, in an earlier version. I think that's really cool. But yeah, I mean, don't expect it to be complete. It's not Children of Húrin.
No.
And unfortunately, it doesn't fill in any significant gaps, but it is a nice, approachable text.
It really is. I agree. Well, folks, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony podcast. Please be sure to join us again next week when we mercilessly tease Grishnak.
Oh, you're on your own with that one. I'm not really sure I want to poke that bear. But okay. At least right up until that spear goes through him, right?
Well, yeah, there is that.
All right, I'm done. We do want to take a moment to thank our patrons at the Kierdan's contribution tier. DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Cameron in Nevada, and Ned from Connecticut. Thank you all so much for your support. Really, thank you.
Really stunning. Still stunning to this day. We also want to thank the team that helps make our show better. Research assistant Thomas Karat, our barliman Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
This show would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates, so thank you all so much, really.
Yeah.
Now be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is.
And one last thing as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your suggestions for eating lembas while tied up to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com. I almost regret that, Sean.
Yeah, we'll probably get some interesting ones on that.
I'm sure we will. Yeah.
So, folks, Barliman's a lot more reliable these days than he used to be, but we do get a lot of mail, so we'll get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
Indeed. As always, folks, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.